Order report, all rise.
Morning, everybody have a seat.
In the King Street area of Williamsburg County. He arrived on the scene around 9 o'clock p.m. and observed the roadway was blocked and several Williamsburg County fire rescue personnel were on the scene. He then observed a blue 2014 Chevrolet Equinox with severe right passenger side damage and a deceased occupant, that's Mr. Christopher Patterson. He was covered with a white sheet and located in the front passenger seat. The Equinox was located several feet off the right side of the road. Trooper Graham spoke with Deputy Robert Lee of the Williamsburg County Sheriff's Office, who was first on scene. He gave him a brief synopsis of what he observed. Trooper Graham identified the deceased occupant as Mr. Christopher Patterson. The driver of the Chevrolet Equinox was identified as Ms. Donna Patterson, and she is present in the courtroom this morning. She suffered great bodily injury from the collision and was transported to EMS to MUSC Charleston. Her son-in-law was on scene and was identified as Mr. Mark Disher. Disher advised that Patterson had left his residence located in the King Street area and was traveling on the highway. Trooper then observed a silver 2002 Chevrolet Malibu sedan with severe front end damage. The vehicle was located in the southbound lane of 527. The driver was later identified as Ms. Diamond McNeil. She is also present in the courtroom. Ms. Diamond McNeil suffered great bodily injuries as a result of the collision and was transported by EMS to McLeod Health in Florence. McNeil's infant daughter, Ms. Johnson, was unrestrained in the right rear passenger seat and suffered minor injuries from the collision as well. Trooper Graham then walked north of the collision scene about several hundred feet to the third vehicle involved, and that's when he observed a white 2003 Buick LaCrosse sedan that was pinned against a tree. The driver and the only occupant was the defendant, Mr. Eric Price Brand, and he was trapped inside the vehicle and fire personnel working to extradite him. The front and left side of that Buick sedan was severely damaged. He suffered incapacitated injuries as a result of the collision and was transported by EMS to McLeod Health in Florence. Through his investigation, it was determined that on August 17, 2022, around 9 o'clock p.m., Donna and Christopher Patterson were traveling northbound on 527 in their Chevrolet Equinox. Eric Price Brand was traveling north on 527, operating his 2013 Buick LaCrosse. Brand approached Patterson at a high rate of speed and collided with the right rear of their SUV. After the collision, Patterson's SUV was pushed into the southbound lane of 527, where the 2012 Chevrolet Malibu operated by Ms. McNeil collided with the passenger side of his vehicle. McNeil's Chevrolet Malibu then abruptly came to a stop in the southbound lane of 527. The Patterson's SUV traveled off the right side of the roadway and came to a final rest. And Brand's Buick LaCrosse proceeded to travel 700 feet past the collision scene and collided with a tree off the highway. On August 23, 2022, a search warrant for Eric Brand's medical records was issued and executed at McLeod Health in Florence, South Carolina. The purpose of the search warrant was to determine if medical causation led to this collision. A review of Mr. Brand's medical records indicated that no evidence that he was suffering from a diabetic emergency at the time of the collision. However, a lab analysis was conducted 2 hours after the collision occurred, revealing that Brand's blood serum level was high and at that moment was a .14. And Your Honor, following this incident, Ms. Patterson not only had to deal with the death of her husband, but her herself. She was hospitalized just shy of 2 months. Some of that time was spent under intensive care, and since this incident, she has been hospitalized twice or more, and she's located in the courtroom in the Bush area. We do have representatives of the family that's going to speak on behalf as well.
All right. What kind of record does he have?
He has no significant criminal history, Your Honor.
I'd be glad to hear from the victims if they would like to say so.
Good afternoon, y'all. My name is Robert Patterson. Chris Jones' brother. On August 17th, sir, our life was changed. I got a phone call coming in to my niece, Marie, and her brother. They were at the home, which was within a half a mile of the accident. And of course, we thought it was being airlifted to Charleston. We didn't know how she was going to be. We didn't know anything outside of it. We all had to go back past the accident to get to the home, which was very traumatizing. And our lives have been changed since August 17th. It'll never be the same. Chris is not going to be with us anymore. He's not seeing birthdays with his grandchildren, not just children. you not be with us for any holiday. This Thanksgiving was one of the hardest Thanksgivings that we ever had. I didn't get to stay around the fire and talk to my son. I ain't been able to say good night. You know, our life has just really been changed. I'm hurt. My niece and them are hurt beyond anything that we can say. I'm sure this man did not mean to leave his home and do what he did. We understand that. But we also understand we gotta take accountability for what we do in life. I'm 57 years old, and I stand for anything that I've ever done in my life, and I will from today to the day I'm gone, just like I expect the same out of him. And Your Honor, I ask you not to let this man out because I don't think he should be allowed to be out on bond. I think we should have a court case and let's move on with our lives as we can every day. And Your Honor, I ask that if you do, just because I think that he may be an habitual offender with drinking and driving, that this might happen again. That if you do consider it, I ask that you do a monitoring of some sort for him. Because I don't think it would be fair to any of us can have to go through what we got to go through with his grandson and his children this holiday season. Because somebody wanted to crack a car up, drink alcohol. There's too many other ways to get around anymore. And I'm sorry, Your Honor, but I can't speak for more. I'm so upset.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes, sir. My name is Joseph Patterson. Christopher Jerome Patterson was not just a father, he was also a soldier, he's a veteran. And when I was 10 years old, my father passed. And he knelt down and he told me that he would always be there for me, he's my father. And the man had day for day. And my whole life changed, our whole family changed dramatically from this. But the one thing I think my uncle said the most was, for every action, there's a reaction in life. And we all have choices. And we don't have any capacity to take back the choices that we made. All we can do is own them and move forward. But the damage that's done to those choices sometimes can never be repaired. Sometimes they're unforgivable. Sometimes they're forgivable, but unforgivable when they've been made. And with all due respect, I've made mistakes and I stood and I paid mine. And I will continue to do it till the day I die. My family will never ever be the same when I'm off with Chris. A decision that was made that night took the most impactful person in my life away from me. I'm hurt. I would like to see justice done properly, efficiently, effectively. And I don't think I can actually talk to anyone except for the fact that this is a veteran, a man who dedicated his life to being a father to the kids that live with his, and he's gone. It's a poor choice. Thank you.
Anybody else here? Go ahead.
Your Honor, my name is Kimberly Cockrell. I'm the Victim Services Manager for Mothers Against Drunk Driving. I'll be reading a statement from Miss Marie Tischer. She is the daughter of Donna and the late Christopher. Your Honor, this man is a danger to society. My life is completely different now. I am responsible for making sure that 3 households are taken care of, along with the well-being of an 83-year-old grandmother and my mom. My mom was the caretaker for my grandma, which is not possible right now due to her physical and mental state. We moved my mom in with my grandma to make it easier to care for both of them. My mom has not been back to her house since August 17th. I work full-time, 10 hours a day in Florence, and on many of my days off are spent on doctor's appointments, most of them in Charleston, and every day running for 3 households. The days that I do work, I typically don't get to my house before 9 p.m. I've had to bring in a cousin to stay with them all day. Luckily, she's available and can do so. Without her, I would not have been able to work. Some days I have to leave early to take the day off, as I am now the only one with a dependable car. I'm having issues at work. There is so much more going on at home. Some of these days at work are spent on the phone with personal things. Luckily, I have a very understanding employer, but it's very hard for me to fully be present at work. I have discussed taking off time, but there's no paid time off, and I can't take time off, and I cannot take time off and afford not to work right now. I have very little time for me and my own household, much less any type of social life. Finances are a struggle. I've had to use almost all vacation time at work. I've had almost 100 hours before this accident. I am now down to less than 20. We spent 46 days in Charleston. We drove back and forth every day until I went back to work, which was about 10 days before she was released. I was in Charleston every single minute that I was not working, with the exception of the day of the viewing and the funeral of my father. I have spent every bit of savings that my husband and I have, which was at least several $1,000s. I've had to help my mom pay bills while she was in the hospital. Luckily, we have gotten some donations, which went towards bills and travel expenses, but that money runs out this month. My dad was the sole provider for this household, so as of right now, there is no income for that home. I have recently started going to counseling. We were at the accident 10 minutes after it happened. They wheeled my mom right past me on a gurney, and my dad's body remained in the car for what seemed like forever. There is not a day that goes by that I'm not at that wreck. I see it every time I close my eyes. We waited as long as we could, but ended up having to bury my dad while we were not sure still if my mother was going to live. Luckily, she survived, but we have had many ups and downs with her health since she woke up. While I do know that this crash was not planned, it has completely turned my world upside down. My dad, who was my best friend, is no longer here, and I haven't even been able to properly grieve for him because of everything going on with my mom. My mom's life has completely changed. The love of her life for almost 44 years is no longer here. She will have the physical and mental issues for the rest of her life. My dad's birthday was exactly 2 weeks after the accident. I spent that day with my mom in my mom's hospital bed. We celebrated what would have been their anniversary in the hospital with a bleeding ulcer caused by all the medications that she has been on. Their grandson's 4th birthday came. We bought him the bicycle that my dad had planned on buying for him and had to explain to him that the present was from Pa in heaven. Thanksgiving came and it was horrible. While there was so much to be thankful for, I couldn't make myself feel any of that emotion. I miss my dad so much. Our lives are forever changed and incomplete because of a stupid decision. Your Honor, I ask that you deny bond. And Your Honor, on behalf of Mothers Against Drunk Driving, I echo the sentiments of the family that we request that bond be denied. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Anything else?
Let's hear from the city council.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court, may I approach? I do have, Your Honor, this has just some biographical information as well as the medical records of Mr. Bland. Your Honor, Mr. Brand is 66 years old. He was born here in King Street and has been a lifelong resident of Williamsburg County. Your Honor, he is here supported by his wife, Martha, if you please stand, as well as, I think, 5 or 6 of his brothers. Would you guys also stand? Your Honor, they're all here in support. Don't sit down. Your Honor, Mr. Brand went to King Street High School, where he completed the 11th grade. He then quit school and went to work. Your Honor, he initially worked at the school district for 12 years, Your Honor, in maintenance. After that, Your Honor, he worked on a local farm here for Mr. Raymond and Mr. Lloyd Fulton. They had a farm here in Williamsburg County. He worked there for over 20 years, Your Honor, full-time until the farm ceased to exist. At that point, Your Honor, he got a job as a truck driver, and he worked for 3 years as a truck driver. He then sustained a workplace injury, Your Honor, and his working career has seemingly ended. Your Honor, he has 2 children, as well as 2 grandchildren, Your Honor. Your Honor, and his wife described to me earlier that his grandchildren love him to death. As was stated earlier by the state, Mr. Brand had no prior criminal history. Your Honor, he has simply lived here in King Street in Williamsburg County and worked his entire life. He's worked and raised a family his entire life. Your Honor, obviously this is sad, doesn't isn't a strong enough word to describe the circumstances of this case and what these families are going through. My deepest sympathies are with them. Your Honor, Mr. Brand, unfortunately, is also injured. Your Honor, as the medical records I provided will show, he sustained a very, very significant head trauma, as well as fractures to his ribs, and most significantly, Your Honor, he suffered a major spine injury that required a very complicated surgery that Mr. Brand is still recovering from. He basically had to have his vertebrae fused together, what's called spinal fusion surgery, Your Honor. As you can see, he still has a C-collar around his neck, and then this device around his body, that is for his rib fractures that are still healing. Your Honor, he had to undergo significant regimens of physical therapy, which he probably didn't adequately complete due to him being booked in the Williamsburg County Detention Center. Your Honor, he has been in jail here. He went directly from the hospital until he was discharged, I believe, directly to the jail on October the 3rd, Your Honor. And it's my understanding that since that date, he has not been to a single doctor's appointment, Your Honor. And it's my understanding that he has an appointment that he desperately needs to attend on Wednesday with his neurologist at McLeod Health in Florence. Your Honor, as you can see, Mr. Brand is still in dire need of medical care so that he can regain the ability to walk again. Your Honor, he has a very, very long list of medications that he takes daily. The jail does their absolute best to make sure those drugs are administered each day. Your Honor, but several things have to happen for Mr. Brand to get that medication. One, his wife has to go pick it up from the pharmacist and then take it to the jail and then hope that the jail administers it at the correct times. Your Honor, this is a very complicated and expensive process for the detention center, as well as potentially a dangerous situation for Mr. Brand as a lapse in his medications could result in further complications. Your Honor, what we're here to decide today is not punishment or guilt or innocence. We're simply here to decide whether Mr. Brand is a risk of flight, if he poses a risk of flight or a danger to the community. Your Honor, as far as risk of flight, Mr. Brand has just incredibly deep ties to this community. It's the only place he's ever known. He's lived here his entire life, he's worked here, going to school here, raised a family here. Your Honor, all those people seated back there live here in Williamsburg County. Your Honor, he's not going anywhere. Further, his injuries prevent him from driving a vehicle. They prevent him from walking. Your Honor, he poses absolutely no risk of flight. As far as danger to the community, Your Honor, while obviously this event itself is extremely serious and sad, he does have absolutely no prior criminal history through 66 years of life. Your Honor, we posit to the court that he poses no further danger to the community, Your Honor. And because of that, we're asking that a reasonable bond be set in this case. In addition to his family ties, Your Honor, Mr. Brand has also volunteered as a Little League baseball coach. Your Honor, and he attends the Community Temple Church of Our Lord Jesus Christ here in Cades, where he serves as an usher. Your Honor, based on what I've stated so far, we ask the reasonable bond be set in this case.
I'm going to find that he is a potential danger to the community, and I'm going to deny his bond, and he may reconsider it in 6 months.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
This is Christian News TY. I'm Tony Conyers. Is there any newsworthy events in Williamsburg County? We will get them to you as soon as possible. If not, you can follow us on Christian News TY Facebook. You can follow us on YouTube, and you can follow us on our website.
Get ready, Williamsburg County and surrounding counties. The town of Lane in Williamsburg County will unveil a historical marker for Robert Mitchell, one of the greatest motion picture stars of the 20th century, in the square. Don't forget, it is all happening this Saturday, December 10th, 2022. So run and tell your friends to tell them all. We will see you all in Lanes, South Carolina at 1:00 p.m. Town of Andrews Christmas Parade, Sunday, December 11th, 3:00 p.m.
The facts remain the same. My name is T. Wow, 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 wow.